This is take 2 of the Pickleball Effect podcast, episode 57. I'm your host, Braydon.
And I'm Kyle. Are we recording audio?
We're recording audio this time. We haven't done that in a minute. We haven't messed that up.
No, we've been pretty technically, other than the remote podcast with some errors with, but the in-person, we've been great.
Yeah, it's been pretty clean.
Yeah.
Dang it. Oh, I feel dumb. I haven't done that in a bit. We weren't too far in, so we'll recap or see if we can recreate what we made.
The magic.
It was so magical.
I thought we were off to a great start.
We got our usual segments, weekly update. We're going to talk about USAP follow-up. We're going to talk about you playing Moneyball Nick Wade.
Mr. Nick Wade.
Mr. Nick Wade, he's the man. 3-0 to 5-0 is me this week. Kyle's Corner, giving some updates about some players and the event this week. Paddle, Babble, and Gear. We're going to talk about the ProXR or Prototype messaging.
Prototype 2.
Prototype 2 is number 2. It's a Gen 3 unit. And then Selkirk and Yola backing up. I watched a lot of the event this week in Tucson, and so of course I'm paying attention to paddles. And so we had the thing with Selkirk where everyone was forced to use the 008, and so I was just curious what Selkirk players were using now.
Now that their choice is what they want.
Yeah, now they're making the choice of what they want. And there's been a decent amount of talk of some of the pros' opinions or rumors of the pros' opinions of those paddles. That weren't all positive, but there were some people using the 008. And then we saw some glimpses of the new Yola. And then we did a little test this week of looking at the plushness to stiffness scale. So we had 12 different paddles of a bunch of different designs and makeups and generations. And then we just ranked them from the most plush to the most stiff.
Yeah, it was very educational too. We'll get to that. But I was pretty surprised by what we learned about a couple of those paddles.
Yeah, it was interesting. If I were to rank them without hitting them all side by side, I think we would have been ballpark, but there was certainly a couple that surprised us. And yeah, we'll get to that, but a lot of fun stuff on the thing. And of course we got Q&A. I did a post on Instagram again this week, and instantly just 10, 15. I haven't checked this morning if there was more that came through. I posted it pretty late.
You did.
It was like 10
you did.
PM.
I was like, man, you're posting this right before we're going on.
Yeah, I mean, the night before we go through, I'm always looking through the notes, just prepping, adding some different things. And I was like, oh, we don't have any Q&A. So I posted that late and people are up. But I'm always impressed with how smart our listeners are. A lot of them are really sharp, very on top of things. And they ask some really good questions that we're going to talk through here that I don't know if I have the best answer for all of these, but we're going to give a shot, and it'll certainly leave some discussion in the comments. And if you guys ever want to submit a question, you can DM us, put something in the comments with a question, and we'll get those added to our Q&A. This is a new segment we've been doing this year that I've really been enjoying, because there's some really good questions that come through that I just hadn't considered until somebody brought those up. So here we go. Let's jump into the weekly update. First is the USAP follow-up. So we talked about USAP last week, my experience at their media day. There's since been some other articles and videos that have come out about that day that I think add even more light, just more information about that event experience, what we learned. One of them is from Speak Pickleball. If you haven't seen Speak Pickleball, they're a new website, kind of a newsy type place, but it's run by this kid out of New York. His name's John Park. Really, really sharp, really smart, really good writer, articulates his thoughts well, and can summarize and just bring ideas together in a really refreshing way. And so he has only been around for a couple months.
But yeah, he's coming in hot. He's good.
Yeah, I mean, he's active in the community now, but I think his work stands out for him more than anything else. Is he's a really good writer. It's really entertaining, really informational.
He's funny because he said, I don't know if you saw where they were talking about getting us all on camera together, and he's like, I'm not a camera person.
Yeah, I type.
He's like, you guys are the camera people. I'm the typer. Yeah. That was pretty funny.
And so I've been chatting with him, and I invited him to go to the media day with me because he was close by. So he drove in for the media day. We hung out, met, and then he wrote his article reporting on the event. And so it was really good, really concise, very just objective, informational. Just here's what we learned. Here's what they're doing. Here's the questions asked. Here's how people responded. And then John Q posted a really good video. So John was at the media day at USAP, but I thought it was brilliant. Before that, he went and visited the PPL labs, which is the labs that are doing the testing for
the big tour. Yeah,
the big
PPA
tour. So he gave them both a fair handshake, filmed his experiences, and just laid it all out there of this is what they're doing. These is the conversations I had with them, and just, I think he did his best to stay as objective, didn't necessarily offer an opinion on who was doing it better or worse, just said, here's how they're doing it.
Here's the facts, you decide.
Yeah, here's the facts, you decide. And, you know, after watching that and reflecting on my experience at USAP, I'm kind of in the UPA camp right now, and I've never been that way. I've always
first time I've ever heard you say that.
Yeah, you know, I've always thought USAP was the tip of the spear. They were kind of leading the charge there, but after seeing that video, my experience is I'm not so certain anymore. And from John's video, I'm kind of the mind that UPA is headed in a better direction. They got a head start on the paddle destructive testing.
Yep.
And so they have a system in place there, and I felt like they were a little more articulate on describing their test, why they do things a certain way. And so I was impressed there. And I don't think either test is perfect, and they're going to keep improving, getting better. But at the moment, I felt like the testing was a little more buttoned up at the UPAA side of things. And so we'll keep a close eye on that stuff because it's a big deal. And
very much.
I don't know. You need to go watch that video. I don't think.
Yeah, I'll have to go watch it after this.
It's worth a watch. It's an hour long. You kind of have to just skip through pieces here and there, but it's really good. And I think if you're interested in that stuff, definitely worth a watch. And then go check out John's article and just Speak Pickleball in general because they got a good thing going. And then in tandem, you had a call with
Jason Aspis.
Jason Aspis. How did that go?
President of the UPAA for the equipment. It was good. It's before I'll make a disclaimer. During our conversation, he actually did say they have no intention of regulating rec play. Like they are testing for pro game.
Oh, interesting.
So he doesn't want people to think that they're trying to, regulate the rec play. Like they have no intentions of doing that.
What's your thought on that?
Oh, it's fine. Like that's what they're.
I mean, is that fine though? Because rec play is the bigger portion.
That's what USAP is for. They need to.
But USAP doesn't seem to be like engineering and building things for rec play either. I think the destructive testing is the biggest, most important thing for rec play.
Oh, I would actually,
because that holds paddles in spec longer and keeps the game safer for amateurs. Whereas pros, you're getting tested and retested all the time. I don't really care about that as much. I'm more interested in how
rec play is going to be.
The rec play, but I'm surprised to hear you say he said that because in my mind they're ahead.
They are ahead
in that regard versus USAP.
I think they are ahead there. And I do agree with the destructive testing. And that actually kind of segued into what we were talking about because it was kind of just like a bullshit session. Like it wasn't like an official call. We were just talking about, when we started playing pickleball and how the game's changed and how power paddles have changed and destructive testing came up. And it's like you go to the park and you have these guys that have Gen 2 and 3 paddles that are just insanely core crushed. And the game now is just blast the ball as hard as you can. And there's nothing to keep those paddles. And even when you tell somebody, like, hey, man, your paddle's, delaminated, they're like, oh, what? Huh?
Yeah, sometimes. So whenever I've come across it and I brought it up, some people didn't know.
Yeah,
they respected that and they ended up getting a new paddle. And so it depends on the person. I haven't come across a situation where I mentioned to someone and they said, I don't care. So I don't know if I totally agree with that, but maybe.
I've had both. I have had people like, even at Flying Pickle, that I'm like, dude, your paddle's delaminated. And they're like, what? And I'm like, and they're like, oh. And then they did get new paddles.
Did they?
Yeah. But I've also had people be like, so what?
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as if I'm coming across delaminated and broken paddles constantly.
No, not as much.
I don't think it's this incredibly prevalent, but it is prevalent enough that I think it needs to be tested for.
Yeah. But
anyways,
basically our phone conversation, we were just talking about how the game's changed. We used to go to the park and see, when we started, there was 60, 70-year-olds dinking us to death and beating us to a pulp. And now the game's changed where there's just people, because you can keep the ball in so much easier ripping the ball. Because back then every paddle was smooth. So it was hard to hit huge topspin drives that would stay in. They'd go out. The ball just flew flatter. We were just talking about how the game's changing and obviously the rules need to change and the testing is becoming more and more important than it was then.
Yeah, I agree.
But it was a good conversation. I do think their head's in the right place as far as equipment testing. I won't.
Yeah.
There's other things that I
Right. I think that's the big question mark with UPAA is like, okay, their testing seems to be a little more buttoned up and a little better place than where USAP is at the moment. But the intentions, I don't think are the exact same. At least the vibe I get, I still get the sense that they're trying to make
money,
a little bit of money off this,
100%.
right? It's not just to protect the game. It's dual sided. Whereas USAP is very, I want to try and do this right. I want to protect the game. Their intentions are I think more well intentioned.
There was I don't know if you don't get on Facebook too much, but there was kind of a little Facebook drama. Connor had posted basically that PPA was the first pro tour, yada, 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 like a big long post about it and how amazing it was. And then Kyle Yates hopped on and was like, PPA was not the first tour. There was a pro tour in 2018.
Right.
And like, it was just funny to see. You'll have to go check that out.
Dude, some of the stuff that comes from the PPA leadership is pretty astounding.
Yates said PPA likes to write their own version of pickleball history.
They do. That's the best comment ever.
I was dying. Those that are newer to pickleball, Kyle Yates was like one of the best. He's still a good player, but
yeah, he won several U.S. Opens.
Yeah,
was always competitive there. Early.
He played with Ben a couple times.
Played with Ben.
Yeah.
Played with Simone.
Yeah,
he was the first big name. I feel like
he's also one of my favorite because he'll talk some smack on Facebook. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he's very cool that way. I don't know what he's up to these days.
I don't know either. Probably coaching clinics.
Maybe
I'll Facebook message him, see if he responds. Maybe he watches our show. You never know.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Kyle is out there watching.
There's pros that watch this show that you wouldn't guess watch it.
I'm surprised Yates is out there. He's surfing. Next bullet I have on, or anything else with Aspa's call?
No, it was just a good call. Like I said, like I think their head's in the right place. It was, I mean, mainly.
Wait, we just said Aspa's head wasn't in.
No, in the right place as far as equipment testing.
Oh, okay. Got you.
I think equipment testing, their head is in the right place. They understand destructive testing is a big deal. That you can't just take a test that's for baseball and just automatically apply it to pickleball. But there does have to be some tweaks, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was good.
It was really fun in John Q's video, listening to some of the considerations that PPL was making as they developed their test, how they had to adjust for the holes in the ball and different things. And I do like that
because they're using a ball with holes.
Right.
USAP is a holeless ball.
Right. And they talked through why they went with a regulation ball versus a holeless, and it was really informative. Okay, next bullet just for a weekly update is my league night fail. So I just feel as if my life is going 100 miles an hour all the time. Either I'm working, trying to do pickleball effects stuff, I'm writing, kids, there's just stuff going on all the time. And as I'm setting up games and different things, sometimes I get the times wrong. Do you ever do that?
All the time.
Do you? Okay, I'm not alone.
Well, no, my life's going a million miles an hour too.
So this is one of my worst fails I've had in a minute though. So I've shown up on the wrong days before for playing with people. It was a week early. We had planned for a Tuesday and I showed up the week before. Anyways, this week, Paul, he's the guy that owns the Flying Pickle. He invited me to sub in for league night with his team. And
fun.
So he's like, yeah, it starts at 6 p.m. on Tuesday night. And I was like, oh, as in tomorrow, Tuesday night? He's like, yeah. And then in my head, for some reason, I had 4 to 6.
Okay.
So I show up
at 4
o'clock and it doesn't start till 6 o'clock. I was like, crap. And it was on a super busy day. It was the day before the 11/6/24 launch. And so I wish I had so much other stuff I could have been working on. But there was an open play going on at the same time. So I stayed and just played.
Hopped in and played.
And I think it was 4-0 open play.
Fun.
And so it ended up being really fun.
Yeah.
And I haven't done anything like that in a long time.
I haven't either.
And it was refreshing. It was nice. It was just out there, just playing. A lot of people wanted to be on my court because they
recognize you.
No, just because they wanted to play someone tough. And
gotcha.
They don't see that same level of play a lot, and they wanted to beat me really bad, and it was great. No one could do it. Smoked them.
Didn't lose a single game. Went to 3-5.
I might have lost one. I can't remember, but it was a lot of fun. Met some people, and I really enjoyed it. I was like, wow, this is what pickleball is supposed to be.
Yeah,
this is great.
It's the timing thing. I have a funny story with that. It's not even related to pickleball, but it was 2 weeks ago. Cooper gets on a bus at 7:30 And for some reason I woke up that morning and was like, gotta be there by 6:30. I'm at the bus stop at 6:30 and I'm like, oh, we have a full hour.
Yeah.
So guess we're getting hot chocolate, kids.
Oh man. Yeah, we are. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one that makes a mistake where I'm just flying through messages.
Dad brain.
I'm just dad brain. And I'm getting more and more texts, DMs, emails all the time. And so trying to manage that influx of stuff while trying to do real works, not real work, but just content. And then anyways, it just feels like a lot. And it sounds like we're in the same
You're
page.
going to need an assistant soon.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Do you know any good assistants?
No. I'm very far from knowing assistants.
So that was my fail. You have a bullet on here that says nerd alert getting into a card game.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was just fun. I probably should have this earlier because it was just dad talk, but like so Cooper's like super into Pokemon. So like we've been learning, like I played the game as a kid. I don't know if you did, but you probably, because we're the same era.
Yeah.
But there's like a huge run on Pokemon cards right now. It's hilarious. There's like grown men like beating each other up at like Targets to buy Pokemon
That's been going
cards.
on for a minute.
Oh, I'm just like becoming, probably because we're getting into it. Now I'm seeing that, but I felt like a cool Disney card game that I'm getting Cooper into, and it's just fun.
But Cooper's taking to it?
Oh yeah, Cooper loves card games, and it's cool because it's getting him to read too, because he can read, but now he's like trying to read.
Now he wants to read, yeah.
'Cause now he wants to read. I just thought it was a cool story. Do you do anything fun with your kids, like to challenge their brains yet?
So my oldest, Oakley, she's very motivated on her own. We don't do anything. She reads every night. She's just very self-motivated. The second one is not that way. Halston, she is very much more wild and push back against learning, but it's just I don't know. We'll have to be a little creative with her as she starts going to school more. But Oakley, she's just kind of, I don't know, when you think of your stereotypical first child, she like is it. Nice. She's just, for the most part, listens pretty well, is just very self-motivated, loves school, and we're like, this is great.
Being a parent's so easy.
Now we're such good parents. We're amazing.
I love it.
The last one here was
Moneyball.
Moneyball.
Yeah,
Okay.
Moneyball with Nick Wade. So
Nick Wade's the guy that does the me and you thing. Did he do it?
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
I was gonna, that's kind of why I put it in there, man. Okay. Like, because I've never played with him. This is the first time
You just asked him randomly?
We had talked on Instagram. He's like, let's run. He's like, let's run it. I'm like, okay. And so we played Saturday morning Moneyball. We've never played together ever. We made it to the semifinals. Lost in the semifinals 9-15 to a really good team. But I was gonna say his partner talk is great. His like on the fly, like strategize. Like he's one of the best partners I've ever had. I was just really impressed.
He's really fun to play with.
Super fun, super positive. Like I don't think a single negative word came out of his mouth the whole time.
Yeah, there's a lot we can learn from him in that way. He's good at it. Plus, it's just fun to play with because he's so good. He can generate so much offense on his own, and it's nice.
So follow him on Instagram. He posts some instructional content.
Yeah, he does. Well, cool. All right, 3-0 to 5-0. This is my week. Today we're going to talk about speeding up off pressurized dinks. So this tip comes from a couple different places. This was mentioned in Jordan Briones' class I had talked about last week. So one of his videos talks about speeding up off of pressurized dinks. And then I also did this mini lesson with Christian Alshon, I don't know, 6 months or so ago.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and he didn't call this generating offense off pressurized dinks, but that was what he was describing to me. So these are the two sources where I've learned and started working on this. So for a long time, dinking and speeding up was very much you dink until you get a dead dink and then you attack a dead dink, but you don't always get you're not always given a dead dink. The higher level you go, you're getting moved because you're trying to move them. Everything you read on dink is about moving around, putting a little more pressure with the dinks. So you're starting to see that a lot more. You don't always get a clear, clean opportunity to attack the ball.
Yep.
So you need to be able to create offense off of some 50-50, a little more dicey stuff. And one of those ways is how do you speed the ball up when you are receiving the pressurized dink, particularly cross court. So you'll get people who have some nice heavy rolls. You played Mariana in the semifinals. She's one of those people who have a really heavy forehand roll.
Nastiest forehand dink I've seen.
And so when they're giving that to you all the time, it's how you can feel on your heels.
Yep.
It's how do I generate offense off this? And the key to it is footwork. So you need the ball to be out in front of you. If you can shuffle step and there's kind of two types of footwork you want to learn. And footwork is a big part of Briones' attacking modules or lessons. There's the shuffle side step, and then there's like a side step, and then like a sideways backwards, kind of a step back a little bit. And so if you can get the ball in front of you off a particular cross course pressurized dink, side step, do a little like step back a little bit, so it's in a place where you're balanced and ready, and you can put a decent speed up on it. So when you're pulled wide like that, it can open up alleys. So you get your footwork in place, kind of anticipate their aggressive dink, and it opens up going down the line.
Okay.
And so I usually will do this. I'll set it up a little bit. The first couple, I'll go down the line, and you can either get a weak response and sometimes just get a flat out point, because when you're pulled out so wide, it just opens up that side. And so if that person's not covering it, then you have an opportunity. And when you're speeding up off a pressurized dink, you don't want to hit it hard. This is very much just kind of a push in the right direction. Keep it low as you can. This is not a power speed up. This is very much a placement. Keep it low. Get some top on it if you can, but it's more just putting it in the right spot. So you go down the line a couple of times, and then eventually they catch on and they start shifting, and then the middle guy doesn't shift, and then all of a sudden the middle's open. And so if you're able to manage your footwork, get the ball in front of you with the ball out wide, opens up new angles, and you can attack and push off that. This isn't a winner. This is very much a setup shot. So look for opportunities to attack off of dinks that are pressuring you. Look for new angles that it can create. My favorite one is that out wide, go down the line a couple times, they start to shift. Then I go down the middle. If their second guy's not covering it, it opens that up. And then as soon as they start shifting over, all of a sudden the dink cross court can be effective if you can get that back with a little bit of a pace of your own as a cross court dink. And so that opens up some opportunities. So look to be offensive in ways you traditionally aren't. And that's when you kind of have to go drill to get the footwork right, because the ball is a little trickier, but just be gentle with it. Just focus more on placement over power, and that can create some new angles and opportunities and keep your opponents on their feet. And when you get a couple of those, it also sends messages to our team of, I need to be careful when I'm hitting that pressurized dink out wide, and all of a sudden they start going in front of you more, which opens up other attacking opportunities. So that's my tip today is focus on footwork, keep the ball in front of you, and look for new angles that a pressurized dink can create for you that a dead dink can't. A lot of times with a dead dink, the other team sets up and is ready for it. They're looking for it. If you can apply some pressure in different scenarios where they're not expecting it, it can be really good.
I like it.
All right, Kyle's corner.
First thing, Japan update. Want to thank all you viewers, because apparently since we talked about Japan and I've set people up with, there's been a lot of people that watch this that have gone and played in Japan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very cool.
So they contacted me again, my buddy Chris, and he's like, hey, thank you for, referring people to me. This is my new website. If you could please put it out there. So I told him I'd put it out there because, so the new website, if you're looking for play, specifically like Tokyo area, is called pickaroo.com, PKURU.com, and follow at Japan Pickle. And they have games going on at the U.S. Embassy now, and then all around Tokyo. So it's booming.
Nice.
So he wanted me to put that out there, and I told him I would.
Yeah, that's come up a few times where you've mentioned people have talked to you about Japan games. It's surprising how many people have gone there.
Yeah, there's a lot of. It's funny how many people are traveling to Japan. Like, I would say at least once a month, maybe twice a month. Somebody messages me like, "Hey, I'm going to be in Tokyo for 2 weeks,"
and they know you. They know that you've been there.
Exactly, from the podcast, and then I set them up with the right people, and everybody said they've had a great time. So
that's awesome. Well, there you go. Going to Japan. That's how you do it.
Yep. All right, drama 11/6/24 power paddles.
Tell us what happened here.
It's kind of funny, but they sold out extremely quickly. They didn't have a ton of paddles. They had, I think he said, what do you say, 15?
There's 1,500 total, 1,500. Presumably about 500 of each shape. Or 3 different shapes.
They sold out in like minutes.
So the Vapor sold out, people were saying 2 minutes. The Hirachi, their elongated, sold out soon after.
And then the Pegasus was a little behind it. I figured
a half hour.
I figured the Pegasus would be the slowest to sell out.
And do you think 1,500?
That wasn't enough. And I what's funny is there are paddles already on the way. Like I had messaged him. He already said like there is a shipment coming. He's supposed to have like 10,000 paddles by March.
Yeah, close to the end of March.
So, but I knew this was going to happen because it is a very hyped paddle. It's a great paddle. But the response from people that didn't get one was to just negatively review bomb the brand, which actually makes me mad because it's like they're not YOLO. David is almost like a one-person show.
Yeah,
Which
I don't know how
it's not
many
like a
employees
total.
he has,
It's not like a total excuse. Like obviously, he probably should have had more paddles or delayed, possibly delayed. But he doesn't deserve to be review bombed like that. Like,
yeah, I thought that was unfair too. And 1,500 paddles
used to be a lot.
Isn't maybe used to be, but I don't think that's any small amount either. I bet 80% of brands would be thrilled out of their minds to sell 1,500 paddles on a launch day, and I doubt he's ever sold 1,500 on a launch day
That
previously.
quick. Yeah,
and so it caught him by surprise a little bit. And I don't think it's totally his fault or think 1,500 was an unreasonable amount to launch with.
No, I mean, even
I'm kind of on the side of David a little bit. I think he got jumped on a little bit by people. And yes, it sold out in 2 minutes. And a lot of people were upset and unhappy that they didn't get one. But I think if looking at it from his perspective, you got to give him a little grace here. Projecting inventory is really hard.
Oh, yeah.
And it costs a lot of money to get inventory.
Yeah, what if you buy 10,000 paddles and you only sell 1,500?
Yeah. And I'm sure he expected that to last a little longer than it did. And it's unfortunate a lot of people didn't get the paddle. But I do think we should afford him a little bit of grace. And I don't think it was fair the way he got review bombed like that.
Oh, man.
But I can also understand the frustration of the consumer, right?
Exactly.
I think a lot of the frustration came from, I had this in my cart and it disappeared.
Yeah.
And so maybe the functionality of the website was frustrating. I don't know how all that works, but I know that there are some cases with tickets when you're buying for a concert, how they hold your ticket for 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people are frustrated that, I had this in my cart. I was typing in my payment information and then I couldn't get it.
That's happened to me with like PlayStations. Like when PlayStations get like they come out in the pre-order and I've had it in my cart and by the time I get to check out and somebody already bought it. But that scalpers do that. I don't think we have scalpers yet in pickleball, but
there are some actually. I've seen some people on Facebook groups trying to sell Franklin's for
two times. Oh.
Not 2 times, but more than what they bought it for. And so I guess that's a scalper mentality.
That is 100%. I don't want that because then you're gonna get people to get bots that'll buy the paddles automatically.
No, I mean there's probably not too many opening or launches that warrant something like that. This one surprised me.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a fan of the paddles, and it was good. And there was a lot of reviews that.
I knew it was going to be that. I knew it was going to be because I have never received so many DMs about a specific paddle till we started talking about the power paddles. Yeah. Even when I posted like, "What paddle do you want me to review?" It was like 90 or give away. 90% of people wanted me to give away a power paddle.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, Dave's going to learn a lot from this, right? He's going to try to launch with more paddles. I mean, it was surprising he didn't have more in some ways because he's been planning this launch for months. We've had these paddles for a couple months. And so I don't know if he was waiting to order more to get feedback from different players. I don't know. But I do think I think he deserves a little more grace than what was given to him.
I was looking at the numbers. So 1,500 paddles, if you do 500 each shape, that's actually in line with another like mid-sized, like Bread and Butter. Their drops were 500 paddles at a time.
So it wasn't.
So I don't think that's like out of the ordinary. Yeah. I just think there was a lot. I think there was like a YOLA amount of people trying to buy the 11.624.
But props to him. Like what a good thing for him.
Yeah.
Great launch, really successful. I think the paddle plays great.
Buy the Vapor. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the Vapor was the hot one.
Yeah. This is my favorite of the bunch.
But yeah, it was unfortunate. I can see why some people are frustrated, but I think we can learn from it. Hopefully he learns from it. We can give him a little grace as he figures out how much he's worth. Obviously, he's a bigger deal than he thought.
Easy. Kind of a big deal.
All right.
What else you got? Last thing I had was Frazier to Yola ? Did you see these?
Yeah. So Frazier was wearing unbranded clothes, but playing a Yola paddle.
Yeah. So obviously that means he's probably a free agent or in between contracts, but it looks like he's going to, we'll see if he goes to Yola, but that'd be good. It'd be interesting to see him with a Yola paddle, like from now on.
Yeah, it still seems like Yola is the coveted paddle among the pros as far as power, forgiveness, and pop goes. It seems to be one of the favorites among paddle techs and some of the new ProXRs.
Yeah.
So
keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, we'll see where Frazier goes. He's a big sign.
And that was it for Kyle's Corner.
Okay, paddle, babble, and gear. Sticking with the topic of pros and the paddles they were using. So like I said, I watched all the Selkirk pros just to see what they were playing with. And this was the tally I had of the people I saw. So Rachel Rohrbacher, Catherine Parento were both playing the 008. The QD, James Ignatowicz, Jack Sock, Jade Kawamoto were all using the Power Air still. Mm-hmm. And then Maggie Brasha was using the Vanguard Pro. So the reason I thought this was interesting is because I've heard rumors from different pros, excuse me, that the 008 isn't the most ideal paddle for some sided spin, some sided power. And so I got the impression that the pros weren't really fans of it. They didn't like that they were forced to play with it in that one tournament. But then you see two of their pros still playing with it. So you have Rachel and Catherine. Rachel makes sense to me. She's always played it with a softer paddle.
The Halo.
And so
Catherine's surprising though.
But Catherine was surprising because she's played
the Power Air.
The Power Air or the 007, whatever, those thin poppy paddles. Mm-hmm. And so to see her playing with the 008 was pretty surprising. I bet it was the 10. I couldn't tell the thickness, but
I haven't hit a 10. I haven't hit a 10 yet, but
that seems to be more in line with her style of paddle. But I was surprised to see two people playing with it.
Yeah.
And not that I think the paddle's bad. I think it's good. I think it's a great platform base for Selkirk to build off, but it does skew towards the control side.
Yeah, I could see the Brashas playing with it too. Like that's another pair that I wouldn't be surprised if they played the 008.
Yeah. So I thought it was fun. I think it was good for Selkirk that a couple of their pros held onto it.
So it looks like QD's finishing his contract.
I guess so. There was no Quabacles this week.
Oh.
And then we saw for Yola, Anna Bright, and Ben Johns was using the new Halo. So they had it got approved.
You said new Halo.
Oh, sorry, the new Yola.
There you go.
Thank you. So yeah, it came through on the approved list a week ago.
It's only one shape right now, right?
No, Anna was playing with.
Okay, so we're gonna
get
so we'll get to see all the shapes then probably at the event. Perfect.
Yeah, at the event, which is 18th, 19th. I still don't know anything about the design builds.
No, they haven't sent any information.
We'll find out at that event.
They just said we're getting one.
Yeah, when I did that Q&A thing on Instagram, a lot of questions about there was at least 5-6 questions about the new Yola. Like, what do you know about it? And I don't know anything.
You will know when we know.
Yeah, well,
if we're allowed to.
Yeah, we'll see if they do any embargoes. That was another interesting thing with the 11/6/24 release.
Oh, he didn't care. Right?
Yeah, I mean, he sent out paddles a couple months before launch and just said no embargo, just talk about it. You saw reviews publishing a month before.
Yeah.
You saw a podcast talking about it, and I think that helped build the hype.
It did.
And we've always questioned, why are you putting embargoes on information if it's a good paddle?
Yeah.
It's only I've always been of the mind that it's going to help the launch be bigger.
Yeah.
And then this is a good case study of this is the biggest launch he's ever had, and I don't think 1,500s is a small amount.
No.
I think that was a reasonable amount that just sold out in 2 seconds.
Yeah. No, I mean that's
the internet has power.
I was gonna say that is proof that sending us paddles early and saying talk about
it is a healthy thing.
Yeah, unless your paddle sucks, don't do it. Then we're gonna say it sucks, and it's gonna have the opposite
and I
effect.
wonder if that's why some brands don't do that. Where they do the embargoes because they're scared that
we won't like them. 100%,
won't like them,
guaranteed.
And so they want the launch to be to fool people. I don't know.
That's ridiculous. Well, Franklin sold out in seconds too. Did it?
That had a lot of talk and chat.
We didn't. Yeah, I was going to say we didn't have anything we weren't allowed to talk about on that either.
No,
other than sharing slides of how it's actually made.
Right. Yeah. Ryan gave us all the information we asked for and said, go for it.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that was another limited launch. No one freaked out on Franklin for selling out in 2 seconds.
There's some people that are
mad. There? Yeah. I guess I didn't follow that one as close.
There's some people on Discord like, I didn't win Dink Smash's giveaway.
Well, that's different from the.
Well, no, because they didn't get one either.
Oh.
So they were sad they didn't get one and they didn't win the giveaway.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that lines up. Anyways, it happens. Franklin, they're way bigger. It happened to them too.
Yeah.
But I do think that goes to show the power of the internet and people talking about it.
I wonder if we should ask Franklin if they'll give us the launch numbers that they had for the first drop. I'd be curious.
Yeah, I bet he would.
He might tell us. Yeah.
How many? They did say it was a limited release.
Yeah.
David did too.
Yeah, but I'm curious of what's limited to Franklin versus what's limited to David.
Sure. Okay, so that was just some of the things I noticed there. Okay, the last thing we have to talk about here is Adidas and Fed. So this is Fed's first tournament with the Adidas. He's playing the updated Metal Bone.
He got metal boned.
Okay. So lots of talk, a little bit of drama around Fed switching to Adidas. Apparently he wanted his own paddle signature. Yola was like, no. Adidas said yes. I'm sure Adidas offered more money than what he was getting for Yola. He comes over to Adidas. He gets their paddle. This is his first tournament with the Adidas. Singles is the very first event at Tucson. I think I got this right. This is recalling from what a announcer said about Fed's performance in singles for the last forever.
Yeah, he's steady.
So since like sometime in 2023 till now, he hasn't not made it to the semis.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that. If that's not exact, it's something close to that.
He was number one. I mean, he was number one in singles.
Yeah. So he hasn't made it to the semis, or he's made it to the semis in every tournament for ages.
Yeah.
Shows up with the middle bone, loses first round to someone no one's ever heard of.
No. So Tom Evans is actually a good player.
This is the guy he lost to?
Yeah.
Okay, I had never heard of him.
I don't think Fed should have lost. I'm not going to blame the paddle, but no, I'm trying to remember which tournament it was. Maybe it was Australia. But yeah, he's not a slouch that he lost to.
Maybe he's no slouch regardless.
But he's also no Fed.
And there's sound bites of Fed complaining about the paddle.
They're so good.
Yeah. And it was I don't know how much money Adidas spent on Yola, but that was
on Fed, you mean?
Or
geez. I was like, Adidas bought Yola?
I don't know how much money Adidas spent on Fed, but that backfired huge. Oh. You could not have spent you could not have asked for a worse advertisement than that.
Than the number one singles player losing first round with your paddle.
But then to follow up on that, he only reaches round 16 in mixed. Their first match was round 34. They won that, and then they lose the next round. And so that was also unlike Fed to lose that early in mixed. And he was playing with Catherine, which is one of the best partners you can get. And so that was surprising. You think, oh, maybe is this the Adidas again? And then he withdrew from men's doubles. I don't know what the exact reason is. I didn't see anything. I looked for information. I didn't know if it was injury, but it almost seems like he didn't want to play.
Yeah, so he didn't want to take another L.
Right. And so this was just a real unfortunate look for Adidas.
So, and this is a good point though. So when you have all these elite athletes, because everybody's like, it's the archer, not the bow. When you have all these elite athletes at the same level of skill, the equipment does make a difference.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, of course, the archer analogy is going to take precedence, but if you don't have that paired with a paddle that plays well and fits your style, then I do think it hurts you.
It does.
Particularly at those levels where small margins make big differences.
I say like amateur, less.
Doesn't matter as much.
But at a pro level, like those guys' skill sets are all pretty much at the top level. They're all insanely good. So any edge, which could be the equipment, it's obviously makes a big deal.
Yeah. Anyways, that was wild. I couldn't believe that. I felt real bad for Adidas. I was like, ooh.
Go to Memes of Pickleball and watch.
Yeah. That was not a great look for them.
That was good.
Okay. Next bullet here was ProXR announced their Prototype 2. They said it's a Gen 3 style paddle. But the controversy here is the label they put on it. So what did that say?
The label. You want me to read it? Should I read it?
Yeah, just
verbatim. I got it right here.
Read it.
All right. Warning. Engineered for peak performance. This paddle is designed to deliver maximum performance. With its precision engineering, this paddle prioritizes peak performance over longevity. This product is for players who are dedicated to reaching the pinnacle of performance at any cost.
Okay,
including the life of your paddle.
First off, great reading voice right there. Very.
I read to my kids a lot.
You definitely got into character there. That was great. But yeah, what do you think of that?
It's hilarious because to me, like it's a Gen 3 paddle. We know Gen 3s are having issues breaking, so they're using it for marketing.
Right. I mean, you got to give them props for at least being honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of chatter online of what you're proud of this.
We're
trying to go the other direction.
I got a lot of messages about.
What were the conversations you're having with people?
Oh, just basically that this is insane. It's just marketing because the paddle is breaking. Yeah, like people aren't happy. I mean, they still sold them though. Somebody said they're sold out. I don't know how limited that launch was.
Yeah, everyone's selling out.
Yeah, 200 paddle. That's going to be the thing now. We're going to do small batches, so it looks like scarcity marketing.
Maybe. Yeah, sometimes you wonder if that's part of the deal. We know for certain that it wasn't 11/6/24 because he was so open about it and he was just so apologetic.
No, he issued a statement right away.
Yeah. And he was upfront early. He's like, these will probably sell out quick. I want to try to get more. I just don't have more right now. Anyways. Okay.
Peak performance.
All right, let's talk about the little experiment we did. So just to reiterate, we had 12 paddles. Should we just pull them out and stack them up?
Pull them out. I don't know if we can fit 12 paddles on this table, but
we'll do 2 stacks. Oh, it's a lot of paddles.
I know. Dang.
Okay, there we go. Here's all the paddles. So what we did is we just for an hour, we hit all these paddles, hit them against the wall, played against each other, and just said, okay, from softest to stiffest, this is how we stack them. This is how we rank them up. And so as we were going through this, I was thinking, and as I was reflecting on it, okay, what are terms I use to describe softness? And I think the most common ones I use and hear people use are hollow versus dense, and then stiff versus soft. Okay. And so you can have stiff and hollow, stiff and dense. You can have soft and hollow, or soft and dense. And I think those are the 4 best terms you can use in combination to describe how paddles feel. And obviously there's a spectrum of soft to stiff, and then from hollow to dense. To me, I correlate dense with softer. I think more control, softer feel, and I associate hollow with a little more correlating with the stiffer feel a little bit. And so paddles that are hollow and stiff, I think felt the stiffest versus ones that are maybe a little stiffer and dense.
I would agree.
And if you've played it any number of paddles, an example of a hollow paddle are a lot of Gen 3s. Yes. A lot of those have a very hollow feel to them. And then an example of a dense one would be the Prism Flash or the original Ben Johns YOLO one. The carbons, I think, have a more dense feel to them. I personally gravitate to a more dense feel. Me too. Do you have a preference?
No, the dense feel. Yeah.
For some reason, I can connect with a more dense paddle than I can a hollow paddle. I think the feel.
I was gonna say, I feel like I have more control.
Yeah.
I don't know. That could be in my head, but like with that, like the hollow Gen 3, to me, that just feels like I don't really have the feel to push it where I want it.
I'm definitely have a better sense of where I hit the ball with a denser versus a hollow, meaning I know if I hit it high, I know if I hit it short, if I hit it good and it goes where I thought it would. Or sometimes with hollow ones, you can be surprised a little bit about where the ball goes. Maybe you thought you hit it good and it floats a little bit and things like that. And so I just feel a little more connected to the dense ones, but that's just a personal preference. I'm sure there's some people that feel the other way. So let's just rattle through these from softest to stiffest. So we had the Vatic Pro Prism Flash. This was the softest. It was soft and dense.
Yes.
And
I liked it though.
Dude, I forget how much I like that paddle.
I was gonna say
every time.
The second we broke it out, I was like, you know what? I would play with this.
Yeah, this feels good. And that is a Gen 1.5 style.
Okay.
This is the Infinity Ruby. We put this one at number 2. It's thermoformed, but it's edgeless. For whatever reason, these Infinity models from 6.0 all have a little more denser plush feel to them versus the edgeguard ones. But we put this one as number 2. And maybe part of the reason I think we wanted to do this was to give you a sense of where does my paddle fit in this scale.
Spectrum of,
If this is what I'm playing, you can kind of know what you like.
Yeah.
Per se, because some people like that super soft and some people don't.
Yeah, some people like really crisp, stiff paddles.
Yeah, and so hopefully this gives you a sense of where your preferences fall, and you can kind of see, like, when we talk about paddles, this is the spectrum we're putting them in. So this one, I think a lot of people would have guessed this was the softest.
I think so too. I would have guessed before we hit them all. But yeah, it was not as soft as the other two.
So it does have a softer feel, but it's also combined with a little more hollow feel, which gave it a little stiffer sensation and impact. And so it was not as soft feeling as those first two. So that one was number 3, which can be good. I don't, other than the Prism Flash, for some reason I connect with that one well. I think overly soft can be harder to control because it kind of hides or mutes. Kind of mushy. Yeah. And you don't get a ton of feedback. And so it can be a good or a bad thing depending on what your preference is.
Well, there's my baby, the
Shogun.
Shogun.
Your baby, the Shogun.
6 months on that thing.
You play 6 months, and I still think you play some of your best pickleball with this.
I think so too.
You might want to revisit this. You play good with other paddles, but I think you play best with this.
If I can get a gold one, I'll start playing with the gold one.
But yeah, so this one has the titanium. It's softer. I do think titanium softens it out a bit. Definitely. This is a Gen 2, no fiberglass, all carbon fiber with the titanium. So that makes sense. It's a little bit softer.
I think there are plans to do a similar layup with fiberglass, which to me would make this perfect.
Yeah.
Basically like the Invader, but Shogun shape.
I think that'd be brilliant. And it's not totally without power.
No.
For example, I think the Shogun has more juice than the 008, but it is still a little bit softer.
This is the one that gets interesting.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on this?
Well, it was interesting because it's very dependent on how hard you swing. If you don't swing very hard, it feels a lot stiffer.
It's like a dink.
Yeah. Like a dink, it feels stiff. But once you like hit a drive or counter and you get into that foam layer, then it feels like a softer paddle. So
yeah, it was really weird that way. I think you described it perfectly. You have to get into the foam to get the softness. Mm-hmm. But it does feel very soft on drives and drops and resets.
I wonder if that's why some people don't like it.
It's because
when you're hitting it harder is when it feels softer.
Yeah. That's a good thought, because intuitively you'd think the harder I swing, the stiffer I want, the harder response, and then I want the soft feel.
Exactly.
For
the other way.
Yeah.
Which is most paddles with like the fiberglass layer, you hit it soft and it's softer. You hit it hard and you hit that fiberglass layer, you get more pop.
Yeah.
So this is doing the opposite.
This is the opposite, which is fascinating. I don't know if I've played another paddle that's that way.
It's different.
So this one was tough to categorize because of that.
Yeah.
But we ultimately put it here right behind the Shogun. Then we had the True Foam. So this one had a little bit of what you just described with the 008, but not quite as much.
Not as bad as that.
It still felt comfortable and dense with dinking. It wasn't as stiff.
Well, this has, correct me if I'm wrong, this has fiberglass like at the sweet spot, right?
It does. Yeah.
So that's definitely, that could be why it feels so different.
Yeah. Maybe that's why it doesn't feel quite as soft from the baseline.
Yeah.
Because it has that fiberglass there. And so we talked about this in our last episode, how we like that carbon manipulated the foam to give it a little more power versus the 008, which is just foam and sheets.
Exactly.
Foam and carbon. And so we like that they manipulated this to make it, I don't know, it feels more normal.
It does.
Just better.
Yeah.
And so this is where we put it. I'm currently maining the carbon too. And so I'm like, I've always had an affinity for softer paddles.
I just got the carbon too. Thanks, Brody.
Oh, you
I didn't have one. I had the one.
Surprised you got one. They're like sold out everywhere.
Oh, well, Brody must have found one in his closet.
Brody coming in strong there. So my personal preference is right in that arena.
Yeah.
So then next one is the Jelly Bean. This is known for being a little bit of a control paddle.
Mm-hmm. It is funny. It's called Jelly Bean, but it's like right in the middle. Yeah.
It wasn't overly stiff or soft. This was a pretty good middle ground.
Yeah.
And this is 11624's control line, but it does have a little more.
And these aren't sold out.
These aren't sold out. Yeah, you pick those up. So that one felt stiffer than the True Foam does. All right, then we had the J2K Plus. This is brand new. This is a Gen 3 style, so it has the thicker foam. It's one type of foam, very similar to 11624, but a little different with how they connect the foam to the core.
Mm-hmm.
But this actually felt softer than the J2K.
Yeah.
But it has, I just started playing with it some more, so I'm starting to develop some thoughts, but it has a little more pop and power over the J2K. It's just subtle, but a little more, but it actually has a softer impact feel than the J2K. The J2K is a little bit stiffer. And I think the people that didn't like it weren't drawn to that little stiffer feel of the original J2K. So this softens it up a little bit, but has some very similar characteristics with maybe a little bit more offense.
Got it. Yeah, I liked it. That was the first time I hit the Plus.
Yeah, and some of these Gen 3s, some of them this one has a denser feel. Mm-hmm. Some of them feel very hollow. And so I don't know what causes that per se, but we do see some variation there with the Gen 3s. And then this was the original J2K, Kevlar face, Gen 2 style, definitely a little bit stiffer.
Won a ridiculous amount of awards.
Yeah. I mean, this is still
a
very good paddle. I played with this because I was comparing it to the Plus and that open play I was talking about.
Yeah.
In my fail. And I was like, oh man, I like this paddle a lot too.
You almost wanted to switch back. Yeah. That's why I played with this for so long.
Paddle Tech, what'd you think of this one?
It's pretty good. It's definitely stiffer. than those guys. I do prefer the 14.3.
This is the 14.3.
You know, that's what I'm saying. I do prefer this one. Because to me, it is softer than the 12. But I mean,
it's a little more on the hollow side.
Yeah.
It's kind of that hollow, a little bit stiffer
I
feel.
definitely wouldn't call it plush.
Right.
So,
you know, when I look at comments online of people's experience with this paddle, a lot of people describe the 14.3 as being a plush paddle. Yeah. And this was one of the hardest paddles we had to decide. Remember how we had to hit this one? We compared this one to a lot.
Yeah. Because this one was like a tough one.
Yeah. And this is where we end up putting it one of the top 4 stiffer paddles.
Stiffer, yeah.
And when you go, if you own one of these, go hit it side by side with some others, and I think you'll come to a similar consensus that we did. That exactly. This is one of the more stiff, responsive paddles you're going to get out there. It's definitely on the higher end, and so it always surprised me because that's how I felt about it when I first played them. And then you see, I mean, obviously this paddle got really popular. It was all over the place, and a lot of people described, "Oh, this feels so plush and clean." I'm like, no, it doesn't.
Where'd they come from though? That's another thing. Like, if you come from the Power Air, you're hitting a 2x4. That probably feels like a pillow.
Right. So yeah, you're right. But I mean, I don't think it's a bad feel. No. It's just a preference thing. But I do feel it's on the stiffer side and definitely belongs up here with these super quartz.
These are coming out soon, right?
Yep. These come out in about a week.
Okay.
Yep. This one was obviously one of the stiffer ones.
Stiffer.
It wasn't a question mark around this one. It definitely belonged up here. This is a CFC face. Typically, if you have that fiberglass layer closer to the front, you're going to have a little stiffer response. Yep. And then it uses a carbon fiber. Typically, it's T700. This is something else. It's supposed to be, I think he calls it like a softer carbon.
Yeah, I think it was softer carbon.
It didn't feel softer. It was definitely a little bit stiffer. And so that's the Super Quartz. Black Diamond. This one came out a couple of years ago. Fiberglass layer on top is what they advertise this one as. Or they advertise it as like a composite blend, maybe is what the actual language. But this is definitely
stiff. Yeah.
This was definitely stiff. I always thought this one was stiff, and so it made sense that this one fell where it did. Did you have any other thoughts there? It was a little denser.
Yeah,
it's like a dense stiff.
I don't typically like stiff paddles. I actually did like the way that hit though, which was interesting because like the next one I don't really like at all.
Yeah,
but basically I'd say basically 2 through 4 being stiff, they were actually pretty good. Yeah, it was a good paddle.
Yeah, I agree that it depends on how dense or hollow it feels.
And I think that's why I don't like this one is because it's stiff and hollow. Yeah, I think I like stiff and dense if I'm going to get a stiff paddle. If you're going to get a
stiffer paddle. This is very hollow feeling.
Yeah.
The most hollow of the bunch. And it had a little kind of sting, stiff feel to it. But I think when you combine that with the extra hollow feel is what made this feel stiffer than all these other ones. And I think a lot of people will be surprised to see this one as
being where we ranked it.
Yeah. I imagine we'll get several comments saying,
"You guys are wrong.
Bunch of BS. You guys don't know what you're doing," type stuff. But you know what? You go get these same 12 paddles and you hit them side by side. Yeah. Then tell me I'm wrong.
No, I was saying we both hit them and we only disagreed like once or twice through the whole time, and then we re-hit them, and then we're like, "Yeah, that's right."
Yeah. So hopefully that was interesting to you. To me, the biggest surprises was the Yola. I think that one was. I didn't expect that one. It was not as stiff as I remembered.
Yeah. So
I never gravitated or really loved the feel of the Yolas, but I didn't think it was a horrible feel. But then when you start hitting them side by side, you're like, man, this is definitely on the stiffer side.
Yeah. I see. My big surprises were the Lux not being the softest.
Yeah, that one was a surprise.
The dynamic feel of the 008 with the foam. And then probably the Yola wasn't a surprise. I thought I've always thought the Yolas are just stiff and hollow. So I'm very interested to see what the Pro 4s feel like.
Yeah, and most of these or all these were on the thicker side. I tried to keep them close-ish. And I didn't want to do
14s,
12s because 14s are always going to be firmer and stiffer feeling than 16s. So I hopefully that gives you an idea of the different designs and makeups and where that puts them in line with on that plushness scale. But that was really interesting. I enjoyed that one.
The softness scale. We should come up with a funny term for it. The marshmallow scale.
The marshmallow scale. All right, Q&A. First one is from Classy Kicks. With current paddle market, do you think Gen 2 paddles are still worth it? This is such a good question. What's your initial thoughts?
At which price? Yeah, I still think Gen 2 paddles have a place. As long as you're not paying the original prices.
Yeah, Gen 2, performance-wise, still good. They tend to fall into that all-court control style now.
Yeah.
There's some juicier ones, right? I think the J2K for a thermo or for a Gen 2 is a little, like a little more offensive. So you're going to find some of those. I think the Invader is another good example.
Invader's
a little more
great one.
offensive Gen 2. But yeah, I think there's no reason to buy a Gen 2 over $200.
That was exactly what I was saying. Don't pay over $200.
No, that's just unneeded. You can get such good Gen 2s in that $100 to $160 range. And there's a wide spectrum of Gen 2s now. Like, it's a very well-developed category. You have control, you have all court, you have just so many different profiles within that Gen 2, I guess, category. And I don't think they're irrelevant. Yeah. But I do think they're going to be irrelevant down the road.
I think so too. Currently Gen 2s are still my favorite, especially when you throw in a fiberglass layer. So yeah, I'm still not fully sold to Gen 3 yet.
Yeah, I think there's we're just starting to see this first huge wave of Gen 3 paddles, and most of them skew all court aggressive power area, but there's still a lot of question marks around durability for those. Yeah. There's some that seem to do well. There's others that I have questions about. And so I think we're still filling that out, and we'll get more information as we just see more paddles hit the market.
Totally different talk in 6 months.
Right. Yeah. As nothing tests durability better than just getting it on the market.
Time. Yeah.
Just time. And so the 11.624 powers are an example where people touted they have good durability for a Gen 3 style build. Let's answer that question in 6 months. We'll really know. I mean, Aaron played with his for a solid month and a half. And he didn't experience any significant break-ins, so I think that's a good sign.
I played my Vapor probably for a solid month, and I didn't get a rattle. I didn't get anything. So.
Yeah, and so we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, down the road, I think Gen 4 in particular, once foam develops, gets more nuanced. Right now, you have obviously very limited options, and they're very limited categories. I think carbon. So any of these guys can come and make a control style of foam paddle. They can make an all court foam paddle. They can make a power foam paddle. Once we start to see more variation, more shapes there, I think those are going to trump Gen 2 for one, the feel. I think the feel is going to be better, and durability, longevity. And so
you're not going to get the core crushing and stuff. Right. So it's definitely the future, but if you're going for straight cost, Gen 2 is still relevant for sure.
Yeah. Gen 4 is going to be expensive for a minute.
Yeah.
Until a year or so down the road when that starts to
we're at Gen 6.
Yeah. And so at the moment, I don't think Gen 2 is irrelevant. There's still a lot of good paddles that I would play and go to a tournament with, especially for price conscious people. And there's definitely more variety in the Gen 2, whereas Gen 4 and Gen 3 is not as nuanced at the moment. Okay, next question. Cam.Morton 3. Do you think majority of pros will ever switch to wide body paddles? Actually, no, Cam. He's a good kid. And met him a couple times. Okay.
Nice.
What do you think of that?
Not a chance.
Not a chance?
Nope. No way.
So this was funny to me. As I read this question, I remembered James Ignatowicz's comment.
I was going to say, it's probably based on James Ignatowicz's
post. He made some comment about how standard or wide body paddles are superior to elongated. But he's still playing with an elongated paddle. He was still playing the elongated Air Invicta at the tournament this week. And so I'm like, James.
He got paid to say that.
Are you just saying crap to say crap?
They needed a boost in sales in that shape.
Right. And so I've always been a fan of hybrid wide body. I am a proponent of those. I think those are the superior paddle shapes. More weight customization, more forgiveness, more user-friendly. I think there's just more benefits to those shapes versus elongated for the vast majority of people. I play a wide body and I love it. And I think there's other reviewers and people have similar sentiments.
Yeah.
And so, and we've been saying this a long time. And I think James just comes out of the woodwork, takes something we've all been, something that's been talked about and then states an opinion on it. I don't know. But no, I agree. I don't think the pros are going to ever be more wide body
Yeah.
than elongated. At the highest level, when you're that good and you just don't miss.
Yeah. I was going to say they don't miss. So the sweet spot size isn't an issue. A lot of them come from tennis. So they're more comfortable with the elongated shape anyway. And I think some of them like the little bit of extra reach. I don't see them switching.
Yeah.
Unless the new breed of people that are raised to play pickleball, like
That would be the scenario.
10 years from
we
now.
see more hybrids, more wide bodies.
Yeah. Because people are like, this is their sport they're being bred into now.
All the Franklin people are using hybrids now.
That's wild to me. Like, it's so crazy that the first shape they came out with was hybrid and all the pros are using it.
Yeah. So that's
that's cool.
That's a fascinating take where, okay, this is a whole slew of really good pros that all switched to hybrids simultaneously because maybe it was the performance boost and power and pop and they just are taking the shape they got. But I wonder if they will change when Franklin comes out with an elongated version of that. So that'll be another kind of case study we can pay attention to when we're looking at this question of will pros ever switch to wide body paddles? But my gut says at that level of skill, you probably do get more benefits from elongated over a hybrid and wide body just because they don't need the extra help that
they're not looking for
they're
not looking for forgiveness.
They're not looking for forgiveness. They're looking for power. They're looking for other things.
Whip.
Forgiveness is low on their priority list of paddles, I would think. Or maybe not low, like it doesn't matter, but lower versus
somebody who's trying to improve their game.
Someone who's trying to be the best in the world there. I don't know. That's my take on it. All right, last one is from Whiskey Dink. Do you think weight customization will ever go mainstream other than tape? I think they mean like on paddles.
On paddles. No.
Why not?
I think that will drive, and this is purely money, I think that will drive up the cost of manufacturing more than they want to give up on their margins.
But if you're a company that wants to stand out and be different, it's worth spending 10 extra bucks.
I mean, Metalbone tried.
They did it wrong. If someone does it right.
True. I guess that's true.
If someone does it right.
I don't think so. But we'll see. I don't ever think it'll be mainstream. There will be some brands that do it. There's already brands that do it, but I don't ever think we're going to see all the main brands doing that. Except maybe
what are ways they could do it that'd be tasteful? One, I think low hanging fruit for paddle customization are butt caps.
I was about to say butt caps. That I think is going to happen.
Give butt cap options.
Like I don't know if it's going to be ordering it at a weighted
or the coin thing. Something there I think is low hanging.
Yes.
I don't know why more brands haven't picked that up.
No, I don't know. Like or just like create your butt cap that like opens and you can put putty in it and close it up.
Yeah,
like something. I think that is going to come.
I think that's an easy weight customization. As far as customization around the head, I don't know. Maybe if you did it right, it could become main. But the way people have done it so far, it hasn't been great. I'm trying to think of. So there's, I forget the name of the brand. It's called like Masters or something like that. They did have the weight slider.
Oh yeah, we talked about that.
But even then, I don't know if someone would be able to replicate the amount of customization you can get with tape built into the system of the paddle.
So I actually had talked to Diadem about this because I thought it was pretty cool. But like the icon, like how it has that replaceable edge guard with
make
pins.
those weighted or something.
Yeah, you could make those with like made of tungsten.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Lead, just like different weight options of the same things to hold the edge guard in. You could do it that way because there was a lot of them. So you could do it that way. But,
yeah, that actually sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The idea is really attractive in my head because I enjoy customizing. And I think, maybe that is a way that somebody could differentiate themselves and maybe start a trend there. But I just haven't seen anything that makes me want them to keep doing it. And so at the moment, I don't know if it'll ever go mainstream, but it is possible. But I think the butt cap at least should be mainstream.
I think so.
They
on a sidebar, do you follow Whiskey Dink?
No.
Oh, he reviews paddles and like drinks whiskey and stuff.
Oh,
yeah,
now I feel dumb.
I actually bought some whiskey based on like he was like in Discord, like giving recipes.
Oh, really?
He posted like a coffee. It was like a coffee, cold brew, old fashioned. So I went out and like bought the stuff to make it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Go follow Whiskey Dink.
Whiskey.
It's the safe word.
from Hot Rod.
Yeah.
That was the.
All right. That's everything we have. If you have any questions that you want to see us answer or discuss, put them in the comments, DM us, and we'll add that to our list. But thanks everyone for tuning in.
Later.